Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wingcat Sports, and it's Red Wing hockey time. We're going to talk some hockey for once. No rumors around. Kind of just going over some projections. And the preseason is starting. Probably already started by the time this video goes out. It starts Wednesday. And then we got a few weeks until the hockey season officially starts.
Yeah, I'm excited. Always excited for the hockey season. Everyone's on board now, and we got the idea of what this team's going to look like. Sounded like Tarasenko was getting familiar with the guys down in up in Traverse City or wherever. Is that where they're at?
Yep, they're in Traverse City right now.
Yeah, they're. I was reading about how he, like I said, is getting more familiar with people. So it sounds like it's going to be a fun team to watch this year. I don't know. In the back of my head, I think something's going to happen.
I mean, looking at it, right? We just signed Seider, so you have no cap room. He's here for the next 7 years, which is good, right? You got your core for at least the next 5,
right?
Going on. So, I mean, if any move kind of happens, again, I expect it to be Husso, maybe Bergeron, depending on how the lineups end up going.
I still think there's going to be a trade of some kind, but and I still think he's kind of trying to figure out how to do that, whether it's to free up cap room or to I don't know. But like I said, teams come together, and really the only I'm still worried about the goaltending, but maybe Koso will surprise them and come up.
Yeah,
I don't know, or like I said, Talbot might be better than I think he is, but I don't think he is.
I mean, he was decent last year with a good defense in front of him, so we'll see what ends up happening. So looking at like lineup projections, from what I see after he signed Seider, the Athletic has the first line being Alex DeBrincat, Dylan Larkin, and Lucas Raymond, which doesn't seem like a bad first line.
No.
It seems like a pretty decent first line that's going to score some goals. Your second line is Tarasenko, Comfer, and Kane.
That was predicted too, yeah.
That's a pretty decent second line, at least on the winger standpoint.
It is.
Your third line looking at Rasmussen, Kopp, and Fisher.
I like that line. That's kind of an antagonizing line.
And then your final line is Bergeron, Villano, and Mott.
I like that line too. Mott sounds like he's going to be a really good role-playing addition. Very good on the power penalty kill. So we'll see.
That sounds. I like how the lines are laid out. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I guess it's going to be difficult because DeBrincat probably would like to play with Kane. Tarasenko would also like to play with Kane.
I think he'll get his chance on the power play to play with Kane.
You might have a power play line of DeBrincat, Tarasenko, and Kane.
Well, I mean, there's no center there.
So, I mean, Kane can play center, but
I mean, you might have 4 forwards and like Seider, Larkin, Tarasenko, Kane, and DeBrincat.
On one?
That might be their power play one. Who knows? I don't know how they work it.
Well, I mean, you're going to have a lot more offense than you had last year, and you had a lot of offense last year. But almost everyone on your team had at least 10 goals last year.
You got to have 2 solid power play units, so I wouldn't.
If your offense, I would say, is better this year than it was last year, and you had a good offense last year.
Right. I don't think people should sit on the fact that Gustafsson is going to be a better defenseman. Maybe not the offensive guy, but I don't think he had the opportunity that he's going to be having. He's going to power one of these power plays.
Probably,
he's going to be on one of them. And I think Gustafsson's going to be a good addition, too, to the defensive unit.
Looking at our defensive units, I don't know if I agree with what they have, but they have Ben Sherratt and Seider playing together, Evanson and Petrie playing together, Mata and Gustafsson playing together, and then you have 2 extra defensemen in Johansson and Hall. I don't agree with that. I probably would play Evanson with Seider, play Sherratt and Petrie together, and probably the only line I agree with is Mata and Gustafsson.
Right. You put Evanson with Seider?
I put 2 young defensemen together.
Yeah. I would. That'd be interesting if they can. If they pair up. I mean, I don't know who the left-hand shots and the right-hand.
Well, that'd be your left. Evanson's on the left, and Seider's on the right.
Well, yeah, I would not mind that. And Sherratt and Petrie know each other well,
which should make that you take your 2 worst defensemen and hopefully make them better by doing that.
Right.
And then
Mata and Gustafsson. That's not a bad grouping.
And then again, Johansson and Hall being your extras there. Right. And that's probably what most people expected your defensive line to look this is the first full year of Evanson,
right.
as
First
expected.
full year of Kane.
First full year of Kane, because he wasn't here half the year. But looking at our young guy, Bergman will probably have his first full season, not
Right.
having to worry about being sent down.
True. True.
So you got some young guys getting their opportunity. And then when you look at the goaltending, they are expected to still carry three goaltenders, that being Talbot, Line, and Huso. I still think, depending on how training camp goes, Huso might be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what I mean. I think that this is not done yet. I think we still got a deal coming somewhere. It may not be an earth shattering deal, but I think we're getting rid of a few players, even if it's just for cap room. Um, I don't know. Uh, Talbot and Lyon, I could go into the season with that. They're going to be sharing duty. No one's going to be really. I think they'll just go with whoever's hot for the period.
Probably is what
That, I don't see either one of them as a dominant
I mean,
starting goaltender.
and it seems pretty consistent on what the projections are overall when it comes to who's playing with who. I just think, you probably they got this one website has the power play unit being Raymond, Larkin, Kane, DeBrinket, and Gustafson, and the second one being Volano, Comfort, Tarasenko, Bergeron, and Effinson as your two power play units.
Right.
Which doesn't sound bad to me.
No.
I mean, I think the one you might miss Perron just for those power play opportunities, because he
I
was
think
good.
people are going to miss him because of theatrics of last year and stuff like that. They didn't realize, the guy is losing his step. He's getting slower and slower. Age is catching up to him. But that magical goal he scored in Montreal is going to be with us for a long time.
Well, you got rid of a couple because even Gossesbear with the save of the season,
right.
with his jump,
Both of them.
You're gonna let them go, and they are going to be remembered for those plays.
They are. I mean, I still watch them on YouTube every now and then. They're two of the greatest plays ever.
When you look back at this last season, those are the two plays that are going to pop up. I mean, obviously, the overall Raymond getting the goals,
right,
to win the game, but
right,
the save of the season being Gustafson there, and then Perron tying it last second, and then a minute later, us being kicked out of the playoffs.
It was a crazy final to last year. I wish we could have gotten the playoffs, but that's what happens.
Yeah. But moving on to, we'll do a season prediction in this video of what we think the Wings will do. Last year, they finished tied to be in the playoffs, but we're just out of the playoffs. Where do you think they are going to sit this year?
I'm going to be bold and say they're going to do what they should have done last year. They're going to have a 100-point season.
You think they're going to get to 100 points?
100 points.
100 points, that is 9 points better than they were last year.
Yes!
That's at least 4 more wins than they had last year.
Shut up. March, they were abysmal.
4 more wins than they had last year.
Yes.
You are predicting.
Yes.
Which, I mean, they could have had last year. They could very well went through a stretch of They went through a stretch of bad teams that they lost. They very well could be 100 points. I'm kind of going to be around the same spot. I know last year I predicted 99. I'm kind of sitting around the same spot, around 99 points again. A little bit better than last year would be in that case, or at least a little bit better. You're a great overtime team last year. That's why you also got to 91. You might have a few more regulation wins.
Right.
And you'll be able to have a little bit more points.
I think they will. Yeah, I think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Sports in this town is back.
You have the energy.
You're going to have to talk to Tom Gores about the Pistons. We don't talk about them around here. So, but
we are willing to sacrifice the Pistons in order to have good teams.
Other than them, everybody else seems to be on track.
They have some good energy. You got the Tigers playing well. Lions having good energy.
Yep.
Red Wings have good energy going into the year. Looking at the division, right, Florida, they might not be as good this year. I know I said that last year, and look what they did. They won the Stanley Cup. But the difference in this year compared to last year, they lost a lot of guys.
Yes.
They lost a lot of good players. One of them is on our team right now.
Right.
Bobrovsky has always been spotty as a goaltender. I know he was great last year, but look at his time in Columbus. Look at his time in Philadelphia.
Sucks.
Look, I mean, he got Columbus into the playoffs a couple times.
That was a miracle, probably. So I
And look at
mean,
his
that's
time
how
in
good he is.
Philadelphia. He's
It,
spotty, in my opinion. I don't have complete faith he can carry a team. But he might get them to be an okay team this year.
maybe, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm really curious about what you think about Vasilevsky and the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay probably is going to sit in the same spot they were
You
last
think
year.
that they're going to
I know
continue to be a playoff
I
team?
know I said they were going to fall off last year, and they really haven't lost anybody this year
When is
major.
Vasilevsky going to be? Well, he's been getting hurt lately,
He has
so
been getting hurt lately. They're
I
probably
I've
going to sit
always
around the same spot as being the third team in the Atlantic to being a wild card team. It
what I'm
probably will be there.
suggesting is if Tampa Bay looks like,
My
is there any way we could pry Vasilevsky away from
No,
Tampa?
you're not going to do that with who you got coming
Come
up.
on, they're
But
friends. Steve
but
Eiserman and that guy
but
are friends.
looking at the division.
That's who I want in their net. We will trade Huso, Talbot, and Lyon
No, you're not
for
going to trade your three
Vasilevsky.
goalies for
Three
that. No.
goalies for one. Come
But
on.
looking at the division overall, I have questions about Boston. Swayman has yet to sign a deal, I believe, and if he has, good on him. But you have lost your tandem in Boston. Ullmark has gone to Ottawa. How is he going to? And then that puts my question also into Ottawa. How much better will Ottawa be with a potentially more capable goaltender? The reason why I say potentially is because Ullmark did not do great in Buffalo.
It's
So,
very interesting because I look at teams like Ottawa and Buffalo. We thought they'd be much better last
and they blew
year,
it.
and they really weren't. And we're kind of like curious why.
I would.
And I still feel like uh, they could be really good,
It
and
could
you
be.
just don't
I
know.
I would say look at Buffalo. They weren't that far out of the playoffs last year. A few more wins, and they kind of would have been around getting out of the playoffs around when
They've
probably a game or two before the
they've got
season
their
ended.
goalie for the future, that Lukanen or whatever his name is,
Luka
25
Linen.
year old. They're a good young team. I really thought they were going to be something last year, and whatever reason,
I would
I
keep
don't
an
know.
eye in our division. I would keep an eye out for Buffalo to potentially be a little bit better, depending on how Ottawa does. Ottawa did do a little bit of some trading this offseason. I don't think they're going to be great just because their defense is a little bit more lackluster, losing Chikrin. So
Yeah,
I don't believe they're going to be a better team. They might be as good as they were last year. Olmark might make them just a tiny bit better if he can play a little bit better. But with his time in Buffalo showed if you don't give him a good defense,
right.
he's not going to be great. Toronto, they're going to be Toronto. They're probably going to be a top three team in the
Yeah,
division.
they
It's what
got
they
one of the
always
best
are.
players in hockey, one of the best lines in hockey. They certainly, yeah, they're going to be 100,
And then you're
well over
looking
100
at
points.
Boston, like I said, one goalie down. Still haven't really lost that many players. So Boston probably is going to be good again next year.
Yeah, they're
The
going to
top
sign.
three team in the division. Maybe a little bit less. They might be that three team in the division, maybe the two team, depending on how things go. My prediction would be Toronto, Boston, and if we are better than Tampa this year, it would be us as number three. Have a Boston Detroit playoff series. I believe it also.
I I still think, but like I said, it changes every year, and things are so rapidly hard to predict. I'm still thinking like with the with the big three in our division, Florida, Boston, Toronto, we're still fighting for that wild card.
It's probably the only thing is I don't know how Tampa's going to be. It depends how you play with Tampa. Tampa could very well be the three. I think Florida is going to drop out.
You do?
I,
Really?
I don't think
Okay.
with the amount they lost. I mean, I said it last year and they won the Stanley Cup. But the amount they lost, I don't know if they're going to be as good. I think people are going to be a little bit more ready for them. We played well against them. I think they're going to fall off. They'll probably be a wild card team. You're probably going to have two wild card teams out of the Atlantic this year. Would probably be my prediction. But at the same time, the Metropolitan Division did get better. Islanders are still a good team. Rangers are a good team. Carolina's a good team. New Jersey's supposed to be better.
Yeah, they got Markstrom.
Washington improved greatly through trades, and
Yes,
they're probably going to be a lot
yes.
better. Pittsburgh is Pittsburgh. They're always going to be fighting. They might be a bunch of old men skating around on the ice, but
I I feel bad because I'm a big Sidney Crosby fan, but I just think that they're out of gas. I think until they get,
I believe they are still the oldest team in
and I still
hockey.
think they should trade Sid the Kid to Detroit
No, they're not going to trade him to Detroit.
for Hall.
The problem is looking in Philadelphia, they were fighting for the playoffs to the last minute. The only team out in the Metropolitan Division.
Can you imagine that power play though? Sid the Kid, Kane, freaking Larkin, man, that'd be like unstoppable. Let's go.
But looking at even Philadelphia was fighting for a playoff spot. The only two teams I'm not worried about are Montreal and Columbus.
Yeah.
Everyone else,
even they said Montreal is getting better.
Montreal is even getting better. I mean, they almost beat you twice last year at the end of the year.
They're a young team. They're getting better. I just think,
then,
like I said, it's so hard. And Eisenman has said this, and we're impatient and we're angry because we feel like we need to make progress, and we have made progress every year. But that division is so tough. That division is just brutal.
I mean,
to make any headway in.
The reason why the Wings were so successful for so long is because they weren't in the East.
Right.
You were stuck in the West where most of the teams did not play as well. You went to the East, and since you've been in the East, your playoff streak has ended. You haven't had winning seasons consistently. Right. You need to catch back up. I believe 2016.
It's been about 10 years, hasn't it?
It's been almost 10 years.
Wow.
I think you made the playoffs your first year in the East, got beat up by Tampa, and then never made it back since.
Right. It's tough.
We thought we were going to have our big rivalry with Tampa because of that playoff series, and then you just fell.
Yeah, right. They are probably our biggest rival, though, if we have one.
Probably it's supposed to be Ottawa and Buffalo. That's what it's supposed to be right now, but we'll see what ends up happening. Even the West. The West has a lot of good teams. You got Vancouver, who played really well last year. LA's good. Seattle is iffy. Vegas is good. Calgary is iffy. Anaheim's trying to make their way back up with their rebrand back into the Mighty Ducks, basically. In the Central Division, you have Utah having their first year. Minnesota is always iffy, but Dallas is good. Right. Winnipeg is good. Colorado is good.
Name now?
Right now, they're just the Utah Hockey Club. They'll have a name next year. They're voting on the name. And they're going through the branding and how they exactly want it. But yeah, they've already made the joke, the Utah Storm and Mormons, okay?
Storm and Mormons.
They've already been made. I think the rumor is that they're going to end up being called the Utah Yeti.
The Yeti? No. Well,
I was hoping for Outlaws, personally, out of my opinion. Should have been called the Outlaws. But I believe they're going to the Utah Yetis is what is always being murmured that's the leak that's going to come out.
It's hard naming a team. No one's going to like it, no matter what you do. Ow! There goes Gordy. He's right behind you. Don't roll back.
But overall, hockey is always interesting because almost every team is competitive. You never know who's going to be good. You never know who's going to be bad until the season starts.
A couple of things can change the whole course of the game.
So only sport where you can't ever guess correctly what's going to happen.
It's the only sport where you could totally be dominated. One team could be totally dominated and still win the game.
Yeah.
It doesn't, it pisses you off, kind of.
But
it's fun.
Wings should have a good season. Preseason starts Wednesday. This is probably going to be out on like Friday or whatever. But we'll see what ends up happening when this comes out.
Are any of these preseason matchups televised?
Eventually, I think.
I know Wednesdays. I wonder if
it doesn't look like any of them are. I'm sorry to burst your bubble on that.
Okay.
I don't see any televised games yet, but it's looking good. With all that being said, though, if you'd like to see, like, comment, subscribe, let us know what you think is going to happen throughout this season. And until next time, see everybody soon.